Alright, so this is the start of my about 5-minute video for my final presentation for my final essay. And I did mine based upon kind of a background with the question of what does it mean to be human, but I'm kind of extending it to what does it mean to be human of the future. So that's my base question. I'm talking about the future. So first of all, we have to break down what does it mean to be human today. And that might be a difficult question to answer, because if you ask a 70-year-old person that question, well, they're gonna say their answer is gonna be different than someone who is my age today. But first off, let's just come down to a simple answer. So to be human, you must be a person who is biologically born, speak a certain language, be able to adapt to the world around you, and have an imagination. Now that's not the best answer, but I would say that everyone would agree with that answer, correct? Now you can be more specific on that answer, but just an overall base answer, that's pretty good. So now for my essay, I'm gonna be talking about the future. So when you're done finishing reading my essay, you're gonna have a different perspective on the future, and what it means to be human. So basically, my claim is that based on the past and present, the future of what it is known to be human will be different and much more complex than that simple answer I just gave you about 30 seconds ago. And what it means to be human, I'm going to discuss it in 3 different aspects of life, or interactions of life, and that is how humans are with technology, or how technology affects human social interaction. Then there's freedom, and then there's suffering. And all 3 of these interactions of life are going to have a different meaning 100 years from today. And that's just going to be a fact, because humanity is always adapting to its surroundings, and its surroundings are always changing and evolving. It's just a fact, because if you ask someone the same question 70 years ago, 70 years ago what it meant to be human is different than it is now. So it's just a simple fact. I'm just simply stating that all 3 of these aspects of life will have a different meaning of what it is to be human in the future. And that's because the surroundings will change. So when we're talking about how technology is changing human interaction, I incorporated WALL-E as one of my 3 texts from the class, and then my outside source I also included in the section of my essay, which was iRobot. So for WALL-E, I was talking about, in WALL-E, the humans, they're fat, they're chubby, they're robot-like, and they don't have social interaction whatsoever. And I was just talking about, the way the world is today, you can kind of see some of that already happen. You see, at a grad party, when you're talking to the graduate and you're the grandpa. The graduate's just glued to the phone, and the grandpa's like, man, I can't even have a conversation with you anymore. You're just glued to that phone. You can already see it forming today. And 100 years from now, if we don't stop what we're doing now, or if we don't put an end to this behavior, it's just going to keep getting worse and worse. And we're going to be so glued to the phone. And as technology will evolve, like it did in WALL-E, they were very advanced. People didn't need to talk. The technology did the talking for them. And I don't talk all about this, but basically what I'm trying to get across is that technology is taking away the social interaction part of life. And WALL-E is just a really good example of how humanity could be. In my claim is 100 years from now that could happen. But WALL-E was just a really good example. And then I included iRobot in this section because iRobot, it talks about, or it's a movie about robots. Will Smith is a star in it. Robots are taking over the world. But it's not really the plot of the movie that I was going after. It's how Will Smith describes robots. And I incorporated it because you need to have a good description of like what a robot is, because I'm making this claim that humans are going to be robot-like. So this description will overall kind of support my evidence of humanity being robot-like. And just a quote from Will Smith. Let me find it quick. Oh yeah, here. It said, I'm talking about Detective Spooner, which is Will Smith, saying it's a sign of trust. It's a human thing you wouldn't understand. And he's saying that to Sonny, which is the robot, and he's saying that, he had winked to someone, to another human person, and Sonny, the robot, had asked, like, well, what did that wink? What was that? And Will Smith, or Detective Spooner, goes on to say, you wouldn't understand. You're a robot. You don't understand that, because robots don't know social interaction. So that just kind of showing that in the future, if that social interaction is gone, that WALL-E shows, then we're going to be robot-like. So yeah, that's kind of what I was talking about for the humanity with technology and how it's decreasing the social interaction of life. For my second part, for freedom, I was talking about, are humans actually free, and what it's going to look like. What is freedom going to look like in the future? And I incorporated Gandhi with this because, Gandhi was, a fighter for racism, to get rid of racism. He was a fighter for freedom. Just an advocate for freedom. I know he was a nonviolence advocate, but it was all about, freedom. And when he talks about racism and stuff, it makes me think, like, what will racism look like in the future? And my claim is, like, for this part of my essay is that, my kids will most likely not really be growing up in a time of racism. I mean, I grew up at the back end of racism, I believe. So my kids are going to be growing up and understanding that, everyone is equal. And, it's all about how you're raised. So, obviously I'm going to raise my kids that everyone is equal. Everyone has equal rights, whether you're black, Indian, white, Asian, everyone's equal. Person is a person. But, I include Gandhi because I think he's a really good example of what how he's an advocate for freedom. And I'm just simply saying that in the future, there's not going to be people like Gandhi, because I believe that racism will be at its lowest point when my kids grow up. So that's kind of what I touch on. And then also, freedom in the future, when you talk about robots and technology, I don't think I'm going to include this part in my essay, but I just figured I'd talk about it. But freedom in the future, if technology, what if technology overthrows America? What if 100 years from now there's so many robots in the world and they like overthrow us. So that's interesting. In the last part of my essay, I talk about suffering, and what is suffering going to look like in the world in the future, and is it a human condition? Do we have to have suffering in the world? And I kind of talk about in my essay that I believe that you need to have suffering to feel happiness. I think that suffering is just a way of life. It's something that every human possesses. Because you wouldn't really know happiness if you didn't know what it meant to suffer. Because without suffering, what is happiness? And for this one, I incorporate Life is Beautiful. Just because Joshua is really suffering. I believe that was his name. I think that was his name, Joshua. He's suffering with. I know he doesn't know because he just thinks it's a game. However, he's suffering. His dad's suffering. His mom's suffering. All of those people, just a terrible tragedy, were suffering. So maybe people in America. They were happy because they weren't suffering like those people. But if you don't know what suffering means, then you'll never have happiness. And since my paper is all about like the future, suffering in the future I think will be much different. I think there will be less suffering in the future. I think the world is going to become a lot more calm. Technology is going to advance. It's going to make things easier in the world. Communication is going to be a lot easier. Therefore, not having miscommunications that would make people upset, whether you're boyfriend, girlfriend, father, mother, daughter, things like that. Suffering is just going to be less, I believe. I think there's going to be less war in the future. But yeah, that sums up the last body part of my essay. So just to conclude, my three texts that I used from the class are going to be WALL-E, Gandhi, and Life is Beautiful. And then my outside source was iRobot. And yeah, you're going to find out why the human condition, well actually I kind of already told you why, but if you read my essay you're going to know why the human condition, or what it is to be human in the future, is going to be much different than it is today. And those three aspects of our life are going to be changed drastically in the next 100 years, and that's really going to change the definition of what it means to be human come 100 years. So that's my video. I hope you liked my long, almost 14-minute video. Thank you, class. Hope you have a great summer.